Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. It's your girl Beloved and I'm back with a new recipe for the channel. Beloved Catering Service is a business where we make all kinds of cakes, butter cookies, shortbread cookies, coconut biscuits, sugar cookies, brownies, ring donuts, meat pies, samosa, spring rolls, and all kinds of fruit drinks and fruit juices, especially sobolo. We also make all local rice dishes and Ghanaian authentic dishes. We cater for all events and occasions and any form of gatherings. You can contact us with the information provided on your screen. In today's video, we are making a Cocomelon rhymes birthday cake for a 1-year-old. Ingredients for today's cake include my perfect American buttercream frosting, my chocolate cupcakes batter, and my vanilla cake batter, which I have a recipe to both on the channel. I will also be using a tablespoon of cornstarch, some white fondant mat, a cake comb, mixing bowls, a turntable, a cake board, white pearl sprinkles, a painting brush, an offset spatula, green gel food color, green and white sprinkles, 2 tablespoons of icing sugar, a 2D piping tip, 3 different star piping tips, alphabet cutters, a scissors, and some tissue. We will also be using my milk and vanilla syrup, which I have a recipe to already on the channel you can check out. Cocomelon cake toppers, that is the cartoon characters, and some silver luster dust. Before that, I would be very happy if you could subscribe to my channel right now and then turn on your post and notification icon so that you get notified anytime I upload a new video onto the channel. And please share my videos with your friends and family. Please subscribe. Let's get started. These are the cupcake batters that will be used in making the full-size cake. So we'll be baking this at 160 degrees Celsius for 20 to 25 minutes at most. After it is baked, remove it from the oven and let it sit in the baking tin for about 15 minutes. After that, flip it onto a plate and then remove the parchment paper from the bottom parts of both cakes. Then cover it with some cling film. Ensure that all the sides and top of the cake are evenly and well covered. Do this for both cakes and then place it into the fridge for 30 minutes to 1 hour. Begin, I scoop some of my perfect American buttercream frosting into one of the mixing bowls, and then I scoop another into the next mixing bowl. Add in some of the gel food color, which is the green gel food color, to both. We'll be making 2 shades of green. One will be a bit darker and the other one will be very light. So in the first bowl, we'll be adding in more of the gel food color as compared to the second mixing bowl. And since the gel color is a bit thick, I'll be using a toothpick to aid in getting it out of its container into the mixing bowl. And then I'll use the spatula to combine the gel food color and the buttercream frosting together until an even color is formed for both of the frosting. So our first shade is obtained and so is the second shade. This is a bit lighter than the first one, as you can see. I'll then move on to the assembling of the cake. So I'll secure the cake board with some solution tape underneath to attach itself to the turntable. After that, I'll use the offset spatula to pick some of the frosting from the other bowl which is not colored, and then smear it on the surface of the cake board to help the cake attach to the board. And then I'll place onto it the first vanilla cake layer and ensure that it is in the middle part of the board. Then I'll drizzle it with my milk and vanilla syrup. After placing onto the board the first cake layer and frosting it, I'll then add onto it the chocolate cake layer, which will be unwrapped from the covering it is in. This cake layer wasn't very straight, so I had to trim off the top part a little bit. After trimming off the top part, I'll then place it onto the vanilla frosted cake layer, and I'll ensure that it is straight and doesn't look slanted on any of the sides. After placing it onto the other cake, I'll then drizzle it with some of the syrup and then add onto it the buttercream frosting. After that, then the offset spatula will be used to smooth it out on the surface of the cake layer. After that, I'll add onto it the third cake layer, which is also a vanilla cake, and then drizzle it with some of the vanilla and milk syrup. Then lastly, I'll add onto it the frosting, smooth it out with the offset spatula, and begin trimming off the bottom layer of the cake with the aid of a serrated knife to make sure that all the sides of the cake are straight and there won't be any edge looking slightly sharp. After trimming off the bottom layer of the cake and then cleaning it off the cake board, I'll then proceed to crumb coating of the cake with the aid of the uncolored frosting. I'll do this to ensure that all the sides are evenly covered and there won't be any visible cake on the cake board. After crumb coating the cake to look like this, I'll then smooth out the top and sides a little bit, and this is how it looks after all that is done. We'll then move on to covering it for the second time with the same frosting again. And this time around, after it is covered, the middle part wouldn't be that visible anymore because it will be in the frosting. When the second coverage is successfully done, I'll then smooth out the top sides and then move on to the introduction of the colored frostings onto the crumb coated cake with the aid of a piping technique. So to do this, I'll then scoop the first shade of the green color into a piping bag and then push it to the end of the piping bag as the end to be held is twisted. Then I'll move on to scooping off the second shade of the green into another piping bag as well, and then push it to the end of the piping bag and twist the other ends that will be held as well. At this stage, I'll then pipe onto the bottom part of the cake in a circular motion until it gets to the place I started with. Then I'll switch to the next color of the green, pipe onto that, switch to the other color, pipe onto that. So it will be an alternating process. We use the deeper or the darker green, and then we move on to the lighter shade of the green until we get to the top part of the cake. The reason we are using two shades of the green is to obtain kind of a watermelon vibe, because the Cocomelon is literally a watermelon inspired cartoon. So at this point, after all the piping is done, I'll then pick up the cake comb we'll be using today and then start making round movements on the piped frosting, the aid of our turntable as I swivel it around. So we'll continue this round movement with the cake comb until a nice patterned frosting is obtained around the cake. If that is ongoing and there are any gaps to be filled, I'll then fill in the gaps with the aid of the offset spatula and then continue making the round patterned movements. This wasn't a very easy or smooth process, but we still made it happen and it worked out perfectly. After obtaining a smooth patterned frosting around the cake, we then move on to the coverage of the top part of the cake with the rest of the mixed frosting. With the aid of the offset spatula, I'll then cover the top part of the cake by making circular movements with the offset spatula on the top. When the top part is covered evenly and smoothly, you notice that some of the frosting appears on the side, so we pick up the cake comb again and then straighten that out. After that, we straighten the top out again with the offset spatula and we are good to go. Now clean the bottom part of the cake where the frosting has been spreaded out on, and then this is the final look of the cake, well covered and frosted. Now it's time to make piped designs on the top and sides of the cake. Here we mix another batch of the frosting and then we proceed to the piping of the rosettes and stars onto the top of the cake with the aid of a 2D piping tip in the darker shade of the green. Now I pick up another piping bag, place into it a coupler and then place onto the outer part the piping tip will be beginning, which is the small star piping tip, and then secure it with the cover of the coupler. Now add into it some of the uncolored white frosting and then pipe my preferred designs onto the rosettes and stars on the cake we are making. This piping tip is a smaller version of a 6B piping tip. After that, we switch to the next star piping tip, secure it with the cover of the coupler and then pipe my preferred designs onto the rest of the frosted part of the cake as well. When that is done, we move on to the last and smallest piping tip. Pipe cute stars amidst the rest of the frosting and then we are done. At this point, we then pick out the cartoon character toppers and then begin arranging them on the unpiped side of the cake. That part was left purposely for the placement of these characters. So when I placed in the first one, I realized that the straw was a bit taller than expected, so I had to pull it out and cut it a little bit. Did so for the second one, but the others were perfectly placed without any issues. And this was done in no particular order, just according to my instincts and how I felt it should be done. And this is the final look of the cake. We are almost done with everything we are supposed to do for this cake. So for the frosting and arranging of the characters, we are done. We are yet to fold and cut out some of the frosting for the name of the 1-year-old. Here I'll fold some of the fondant and then roll it out on the fondant mat with the fondant rod and some icing sugar. After that, I'll pick up the plate containing the cornstarch and then dip into it all the alphabet cutters to prevent the frosting from sticking into the alphabet cutter when it is used. Then I'll proceed to placing the alphabet cutters onto the fondant to cut out the alphabets we will be using for the cake placing. So today we are cutting out Nathaniel at 1. When the alphabets are cut out of the fondant, I'll then arrange it onto a sheet according to what I said earlier, Nathaniel at 1. Then I'll dip a painting brush into our silver luster dust we'll be using today and then start painting out the at and 1 with the dust. After that, I'll move on to the painting of the Nathaniel, that is alphabet by alphabet, until all of them are coated in the silver luster dust. Now I'll arrange the Nathaniel at 1 in the middle part of the cake and ensure that they are arranged accordingly, in line and aesthetically pleasing. When the alphabets are being placed and there are any places to be touched up with the luster dust, I'll do that as it's ongoing. And just like that, all the alphabets and the number have been placed evenly and nicely, and this is the final look of the cake. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comment section. Here I use the brush to sprinkle some of the luster dust around the cake to give it kind of a shiny reflective look. Since we'll be delivering the cake right after making it, we are going to place it into the designated cake box. But before that, we'll have to peel off the rubber covering in and outside the cake box, and then we place it onto the cake board as seen in the video being displayed. After that, we add up the top covering and then move on to the making of the bow we'll be using to tie it. Now I'll tie the cake box with the ribbon as my younger sister helps me hold the cake upwards so that I can do the tying underneath. And this is the final look of. And this is where today's video ends. Thank you so much for watching. Make it a point to watch our new videos this and every Thursday and Sunday for wholesome content and amazing recipes you can try with your friends and family. This new year, I'll be very glad if you could try any of our recipes and then give feedback on it in the comment section. Also, please subscribe to my channel, turn on your post and notification icon, and then share my videos with your friends and family. Let's all join hands and make this channel grow. Till we meet again, dear viewers. Bye bye.